Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. Sorry I missed the show yesterday, but we had a dental emergency. Yes, I was in a great deal of pain this last week and finally decided I needed to go to the dentist. I had to pay cash for it, but it is what it is. I I I will have insurance starting January 1st because open enrollment starts November 1st. And that will include some dental. Anyway, um, and he actually gave me pain medication. I was a little surprised, but happy to have it. Although I will admit I switched back to Tylenol because I was getting a headache from the pain medication. Anyway, look at my turtle. Okay, this was a gift from a subscriber. Look how cute he is. And he's got holes in his back to hold my pens. So here's what we need to do. We got to name this guy. Yeah. So put your suggestion down in the comments and I'm going to pick a name. Sunday during my live, we'll have a little drawing and, we'll see what we can name the turtle. So I'm still working on this gnome, this little gnome stand from Wednesday. I've already done the other side. I've diamond painted the other side of the stand. And you put them together like this. And then you put some lights in between. And you got a little Halloween display. Super cute. Okay, and you know I love gnomes. Okay, I know it's Friday. I'm supposed to be dancing, but honestly, can we forego it till next week? I'm just not up to it. But I do want to bring you up to speed on what's going on with the trials. I know you need to have something to listen to while you're crafting this weekend. Yeah, I I'm sorry. I did try to listen to a lot of what I missed yesterday. So some really important stuff came down. So the Cara Rintala, she was on trial for the fourth time for the murder of her wife Anna Marie Rintala. Well, the jury finally came back with a verdict after. Well, I was going to say they started deliberating a week ago, all day Thursday, Friday, Monday. Anyway, they had to start over on Monday because they needed to replace two jurors, and so he replaced the jurors on Monday, and they started over on Tuesday. So they deliberated Tuesday and Wednesday. They finally came back with a verdict after like 15 hours because they had to start over. Now, I don't know what that means, start over, but here's the verdict. I promised I'd go live with it. Sorry, couldn't do that. It's at the dentist, but here it is.
Now in session.
We have a verdict, so bring in the jury.
Yes, Your Honor. Jury entering. Jurors, please remain standing. Defendant, please remain standing. All others may be seated.
You may.
What say you, Madam Foreperson? Has the jury agreed upon its verdict in Hampshire County Indictment 1180 CR 0128, the Commonwealth versus Caravantala?
We have.
If you could please give your verdict slips to the court officer. Please return the verdict slip to the foreperson. What say you, Madam Foreperson, as to count 1 of Hampshire County Indictment charging the defendant, Caravantala, with murder? Is she not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, guilty of murder in the second degree, or guilty of voluntary manslaughter?
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
Members of the jury, hearken to your verdict as the court will record it. You, upon your oaths, do say that the defendant, Caravantala, is guilty of voluntary manslaughter. This is the unanimous verdict of the jury, so say you, Madam Foreperson? So say you, all members of the jury?
Yes.
Judge, may the jurors be individually polled.
Can I see the sidebar? Okay, members of the jury, on behalf of the court, I want to thank you for the significant amount of time and attention that you have dedicated to this matter. I'm going to send you back to the jury room one last time. I will be back shortly to talk to you one last time.
All right.
So let me share you my thoughts on this. Guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Now that brings with it a sentence of up to a maximum of 20 years. Now, her lawyer, usually when a verdict is handed down like this, the prosecution will ask that the bond be revoked. She's been out on bond since 2016 when her guilty verdict from the third trial was overturned. So she's been out on bond for quite some time. So the prosecution asked that the bond be revoked. So Kara Rentala's attorney said, she asked the judge to continue the bond, continue to let her client stay out on bond until the sentencing. and she asked that the sentencing be delayed. I don't know why they wanted it delayed. Can you delay the sentencing for a couple of weeks? Because the prosecution wanted it to occur like right away, like within the next week. So, and she said, and I would also ask the judge to consider um, sentencing her to time served, which apparently is 7 years. She did spend 7 years in prison. From the time they got the guilty verdict till the time it was overturned, I guess it was 7 years. In any case, this is her fourth trial, so she was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Now, here are my thoughts on this verdict. I think it was a compromise. Given the length of time that they were deliberating, I think they finally just said, "Listen, either we're going to be a hung jury, or we're going to have to come up with something here." So they had a choice between first degree murder, second degree murder. First degree is intentional, second degree, then voluntary manslaughter. So I think the ones that were holding out for not guilty kind of finally agreed to the voluntary manslaughter. Yeah, yeah, that's what I think. It was a compromise. Otherwise, it was going to come out hung. And I don't even know that they were aware that that could be a choice, because they never sent a note out to the judge saying, "Hey, we can't reach a verdict. We're not unanimous." But I think the only way they were going to get to unanimous was to go with this lesser included offense of voluntary manslaughter. And the only way they could get there, I believe, is to just to argue that, well, these two women were arguing and fighting. They had a history of domestic violence, and this is what was going on that day: more domestic violence to each other. Although, I don't know, she was hit over the head with a blunt force object, or she fell down the stairs. I think she probably fell down the stairs. That's how she got the blunt force trauma on the head. But she was strangled. How is that manslaughter? Okay, I don't know. In any case, did you notice that when they read the verdict, if you want to rewind, go back and look, did you notice as soon as they said that she was guilty of voluntary manslaughter, she said, "I didn't do it." She looked at her lawyers and goes, "I didn't do it." Now, how scary is that? What if she really didn't do it? Very few defendants, I've seen very few defendants react. They're usually very stoic when the verdict is read. She was quite emotional, and that was the first thing out of her mouth. I, yeah, well, she's got the appeals, right? All right. So, the next case, the boy in the box. Yes, let's talk about that. Now, I'm behind in that. I'm going to bring you the testimony either Saturday or Monday, probably Monday. I'll catch you up on Monday, because the other case that I'm covering, which is the Maya Kowalski case, there's no trial today. They took Friday off. But he did say they're going to be there Monday through Friday next week. Okay. So the boy in the box. This is the case, the trial of Timothy Ferreter for the false imprisonment of his son. And the more I hear about this, the more I'm thinking, are they making a mountain out of a molehill here? I'm trying to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, right? So up in Arizona, he's got his own room. The 16-year-old son, who at the time he was in Arizona, I think what because he testified, and I think he said he moved to Arizona. He was in the third grade, and they came back to Florida when he was in the middle of the eighth grade. So at some point in Arizona, he goes from having his own room, and then this baby is born, and they give the baby that room. Now he's got two other siblings, two female siblings. They've each got their own room. Mom and dad have their own room. It's only a 4-bedroom house. So they built him a box in the garage. And I'm wondering if this was like, hey, this is going to be a fun project, and we're gonna you get this is your own room, and how exciting. And I don't know. I'm trying. I know I'm probably completely way off base with this, but so I don't know if they had a camera on the room up in Arizona. I don't, but it did lock from the outside, and the parents were completely in control of the lighting. These are the two things I don't understand about this room. If it's just a room so your son can have a room, why are you locking it from the outside? Why are you locking him in it for up to 18 hours, which is what he's testifying to? And why no lights? Now, like I said, I don't know if they had a camera up in Arizona, but when they moved to Florida, they built another box. Now, so I'm going to back up here. Let's start with the testimony of the sister. Now, I went over the testimony of the sister, but then there was the cross examination of the sister, and she was the way that they impeached her was to show pictures. You said he didn't get to do anything out in the yard, but yard work. But then they showed a picture of him playing in a pool. Um, and she goes, "Well, I didn't say all the time, but most of the time." Oh, okay, that explains it. So that's how they impeached the sister. So then the son Ronan takes a stand, and they call him Ty, but they are careful not to mention any of the other children's names. And she was in a different courtroom appearing by video, and he was actually in the courtroom, but we didn't get to see either one of them because they're juveniles. He's 16 years old, and let me tell you, his answers were very mature, very mature. I was quite impressed with the 6-year-old. He takes AP classes. Like his favorite class is calculus. Yeah, oh boy. So he was asked, how do you feel about testifying against your parents? And he said, apathetic. Now, what 16-year-old uses the word apathetic? And they're like, well, what do you mean, apathetic? Yeah, can you define that? Use it in a sentence. Anyway, he says, I don't really like to talk about it, but it doesn't really bother me one way. I don't have any feelings one way or the other. This kid sounds like he has moved on. He's processed this, he's forgiven them, and he has moved on. At one point during his testimony, during the cross examination, he said, people think of my parents as bad. He goes, I don't. I think they made a mistake. I think they made a mistake. They deserve to be forgiven, and people need to move on. I think we're done here. Let's pack up and let's go home, right? Nope, they're continuing this. So he testified that he was adopted when he was a year and a half old, and he from Vietnam. He was brought to the U.S. and he believes the only places he really remembers living are Florida, Arizona, and then back to Florida. So he said he was brought as an infant to Florida. He's currently in the 10th grade and he's 16 years old. And his favorite subject is calculus. I never even took calculus. Don't have a clue what it is. I'm sure I don't need it in my crafting life. It has nothing to do with my gnome or my crafting or how to make my coffee in the morning, so I don't need to know it. Oh, he said he was about 11 or 12 when the toddler was born up in Arizona. He said he was in the 5th grade. This is when he goes into the box. Yeah. So he said Tim was the one that made the rules and decided the punishments, but Tracy would go along with it because she's going to be on trial next. So you can't exonerate her just yet. Okay, we got to go through with this. So, and she is in the courtroom. I thought that was her. She is, and at one point during the break, he was Tim got up and he was sitting with her and talking to her. Um, so it looks like there's they're united. It's a united front, and they're both out on bond. So he said that he slept in the 8x8 room in the garage because he was asking, where does it, who sleeps in what room in the house? Because he said it was a 3-bedroom house with an office. The office was made into the baby's bedroom. The 2 girls had bedrooms. Parents had a bedroom, and he got a box in the garage. He said it was already built when they got to Florida. It was already there, but he knows that his parents contracted to have that built, and they're like, "How do you know that?" He goes, "This." I had to go back. I had to rewind to make sure I heard him correctly. He said, "I was kept in the closet, and I overheard them." And the lawyer just keeps on going. I would have said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What do you mean you were kept in the closet?" And this is when I rewound it, and he did say, "I was kept in the closet and I overheard them." And he did say this was before the box was built. What? Okay. So that's December 2021. December when they moved to Florida, the box is ready to go when he gets to the house. He described it as being a concrete floor, but he said he had these pads that that you could put on top of the concrete to make it softer. And I don't know if he was, I know that you can have like those kindergarten pads, or maybe it was like a gym pad. The attorney said carpeting, and he went along with that, but I don't think it was carpeting. I think it was a pad to make it softer. He said he had a twin size inflatable mattress, no box spring mattress on the floor with sheets and a desk. He did have a dresser at one point, but he lost his privileges to have a dresser. So his clothes were stored in the garage somewhere. So he was not allowed to touch the air conditioning. It did have an air conditioner, but he was not allowed to control the temperature. That was Dad did that. And he said the light was controlled from the outside, and it was turned off at night, and he would just be there in the dark, pitch dark. There's no windows, pitch dark. But he said that he was also locked in there during the daytime sometimes, but it would still be pitch black. That's, yeah, okay. So he just kind of, in sex, one time he said he tripped over something because it was so dark, and he was trying to feel a way around his room for something. Now, he knew that there was a Ring camera there because it had a communication. His dad could talk to him through the camera, and he could talk back. How clever. Then he said the room was kept locked most of the time. He said he would come home from school and he had to go to his room, and it was locked. He took most of his meals in the room. Most of the time, sometimes his parents would give him a bottle of water to have with him in the room. Most of the time, he had nothing to drink in the room. He took his main meals in the room most of the time, and no snacks, like no dessert or, double stuffed Oreos at night or anything like that. Didn't get them. He talked about in the mornings when his parents were getting up for the day, they would come in and they would turn the light on, unlock it, so he could come out, use the restroom, get dressed. He had to clean out the bucket if he had urinated in it during the night, and he said he would take the urine outside and dump it on a bush. So, so he would get dressed and he would finish up his homework because now he had some light, and then he would be allowed to go to school. And then when he come home from school, he's locked back in this room. And he did say at some point he had books, but then he lost his privilege to most of the books, so then all he had left was a couple of textbooks. He was asked how it felt to be locked in that room, and he said it was dehumanizing. This is a 16-year-old, but this is what I mean by he's very mature to come up with that kind of dehumanizing. Yeah. He said, I was punished for doing things that normal kids do. Yeah, I got into trouble. Yeah, I did things I shouldn't have, but it's no different than any other teenager. But I was punished for it. My siblings weren't punished for doing the same things. So he said it was 50-50 whether he would get breakfast. So most of the time when he did get breakfast, it would be peanut butter on bread and some fruit. Never anything else. Just peanut butter on bread and some fruit. And then he would take lunch to school, and that would be another peanut butter sandwich and fruit. I hope this kid liked peanut butter. Oh my goodness. So then he said dinner most of the time was in his room. He also had toys that were originally that they were taken away. So, and he was not allowed to have electronics. So, why weren't you allowed to have electronics? He said, well, I, I hacked into the school's computer. And I don't think he meant it the way it sounded. There was the, I can't talk. The who's mowing their lawn in September, October? It's October. Stop mowing the lawn. It's probably my neighbor. Mow mine. Um, oh my God, the weather is so beautiful today. It's so gorgeous. Okay, where was I? Oh, the word he used for it was, oh my God, what was it? Jailbreak. Jailbreak. So apparently, what jailbreak means is when you have these um, MacBooks or whatever they are, they're assigned by the school. You are only supposed to do your homework on them, nothing else. But they're set up so that's all you can do. You can't access the internet or anything. But I guess if you do one of these jailbreaks, you can access the internet. So that's what he was doing. He wasn't breaking into the school's computer, as far as I know. So, and kids are going to do that. Of course, you're going to do that. But some of the other things he did was like he stole his dad's credit card. He admits that he did that. I did. Then one time during school, he stood up and said, "Is the Holocaust real?" And that was felt like it was a very insensitive thing to say. Um, One time he took a box cutter to school. One time he took a was upset with a kid and he took his finger and poked him and pushed him into a wall with his finger. And there was one time, I know it's so funny, one time where he said he was authorized to make an announcement. And so when he goes to make the announcement at school, it was something derogatory about his sister. And she was very, very embarrassed by the whole thing. So, the parents were called and all this stuff. So he admits, hey, I wasn't a goody two shoes. I did my share of mischief, but he would get punished for it. Now, before he took the stand, the the other person that had taken the stand that day was the ring camera person, the investigator that had executed the warrant on Ring.com and gotten all the footage, and he showed how he was able to, because apparently they had 5 Ring cameras. I thought it was 3. They had 5. Uh, so we had to sort through all that and just isolate the ones that were just the box. And he said there was several thousand, and they were about a minute long, and they would be triggered by motion. So they played a bunch of them, but we couldn't see it. So I have no idea what they were looking at. But it became evident to me that uh, there was no corporal punishment that was on that footage. Um, he did say that when they were, because the only thing this lad is charged with is between December, the time they get back to Florida, December and January 21 into 22. All the stuff that happened in Arizona, he's not charged with that. But this kid did say when they were in Arizona, he would get punished with a jump rope and a belt. But none that was not evident on the footage, apparently, that they saw before this kid took the stand. Now the other, now this is kind of funny. During this testimony, and the judge had warned the court, that there was going to be that national alert on everybody's cell phone. So when it happened, it was very funny. And it was in the middle of, I forget who was testifying. Oh, it was the boy who was testifying, and these things started going off, and it went off while I was recording the show yesterday, the day before yesterday too, and I just left it in the footage because it went over on every cell phone across this entire country, but it wasn't like it was synchronized or anything. It was, you'd hear a few phones here and then a few phones there and then the judge's phone. And so they just kind of waited for 5 minutes or so till everybody's cell phone had gone off, and then they kept going with the testimony. That was the other thing. They had taken his phone away. He didn't have a phone. All right, let's move on to the next case, the Kowalski case. So I got to listen to the deposition of Kathy Beatty. Kathy is the social worker. And if you watched the Netflix documentary, you'll know that Kathy had expressed several times to Maya that she was going to adopt Maya. She's a social worker at the hospital. Now, this did not come up during the deposition, but it may come up during Maya's testimony when she takes the stand, that this woman would say, "Hey, I'm going to adopt you." But like I said, it didn't come out during her deposition. And why they played the deposition instead of having her there in person, I didn't catch why they did that. She was a party to this lawsuit. She and it was the hospital, it was her, and it was this doctor. Um, and she and the doctor have settled and are no longer in the case. So I don't know if we're going to hear from this doctor or if we're going to hear from this doctor by way of deposition. Maybe that was part of the settlement agreement that she doesn't have to appear at the trial, that she could just play her testimony. I don't know. So, but she was doing the Nuremberg defense. Wasn't me. I was just following orders because she is basically being accused of, or it was alleged that she was sort of the ringleader at the hospital. She was making all the rules. Because and she kept saying, "No, I was just following DCF's court orders." Well, apparently, what the judge said in those court orders is that, I am ordering that she be sheltered at the hospital, and I am leaving it up to the hospital how to execute that, how to follow through with that. That she cannot have any visitation with her. Oh, that she can only have supervised visitation with the father. So she was asked, "Did you take care of getting supervised visitation for dad?" "No, that's up to DCF. We don't provide supervision." And they said, "Well, did he get supervised visit?" She goes, "Well, I assume so. He was visiting." She was downplaying her role in this, clearly downplaying it. So she said she agreed, yes, that the court had deferred to the hospital to implement the shelter orders, and but she did so by now she's going to shift the blame somewhere else. She was following the risk manager's rules. I would consult with risk management, and I would do what they said. Okay, you know what the risk manager is going to say? I was consulting with the risk management committee and the administration, and I was just doing what they said. This passage, we're going to pass the buck. You watch. If they put the risk manager on the stand, I don't know. So she was asked if she ever saw any signs of child abuse in this case, and she said yes, I did. I witnessed it. Well, what did you witness? Well, the mom was very demanding. She was on rounds with the doctor, and she was very demanding about the dosage of ketamine that this child should get. So the lawyer, he was very clever. He's like, "So you're telling me that this whole thing started over a disagreement on the dosage?" She's like, "Well, no, no, no. Yeah." Um, and she said uh, she never made the recommendation that mom should be kept away from the child. "No, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that." She did. She did. And he called her on it. Then he went through the patient's bill of rights that they give to every patient or their parents. You know, that piece of paper that you sign, the privacy rights, and then the bill of rights, and you're just like, you fold it up, stick it in your purse, and then when you get home, you put it in the garbage, in the recycling bin, and you never read it. Well, what it says is that you have the right to, if you're in pain, to get pain medication. You have the right to transfer to another facility if you feel like your needs cannot be met. This, that whole thing. You have rights as a patient. Um, and she was asked, "Did Maya have these rights?" Yes, she did. Well, she was in pain when I saw her. She wasn't in pain. Oh, and you've been trained in how to recognize pain in a pediatric patient. I see it all the time, she said. I see it in trauma and car accidents and cancer and surgeries and blah, blah, blah. And Maya wasn't acting like these kids act. She was playing foosball. She goes, and I could see she could move her arms and legs and feet. I saw it. Okay. She said Maya did not express pain unless she was prompted by the mother. That's when Maya would express her pain. That's a very interesting statement. Very interesting. Now she was asked why, because Maya's attorney also testified, and I'll get to what he testified to. But one of the things he had said was that because Maya had her own private attorney during these proceedings, this DCF takeover, she had her own lawyer. And when he came to visit her in her room, this social worker insisted that the door be left open. And she flatly denied, no, I was not listening in. No, no, no. That, but we were under orders to leave the door open. Who ordered that? The risk manager. Why? Well, apparently Maya had fallen out of bed the week before and claimed that she was on the floor for hours before anybody could help her. So they had to leave the door open so that when the nurses would pass by, they would have they could visualize that she was in the bed, not on the floor. So this lawyer says, "Well, you didn't trust her attorney to pick her up off the floor if she fell on the floor." So some of the other things that they were talking about with this woman was a particular time where she took Maya into her lap and gave her a hug and a kiss, and the attorney was pretty aggressive about this. Did you have permission to do that? She goes, well, Maya asked me if she could sit in my lap, and it is our job at the hospital to comfort these children. And then he pulled out he said, are you a member of the National Association of Social Workers? And she said, yes, I am. So he pulls out the code of ethics, which says you should not get close to these children. You should not, cradle them without their permission and blah, blah, blah. And she didn't have the parents' permission. And I think Maya's probably going to testify that she didn't have her permission either. Because apparently Maya hated this woman because she would sit in on her phone calls. If she was talking to her mom, this woman will be sitting by her. So we're going to hear all that stuff. And this woman, of course, was saying, oh, I was just following orders. I was just following orders. This light is all over me. Anyway, yeah. So that was the testimony of the social worker. So I did tell you that her private attorney testified, and so they had gotten word to him that she wanted to talk to him. So he went in and he did talk to her, and her expression to him was that she was still in pain, still a lot of pain, that she didn't feel like she was getting the proper therapy at this hospital, and could he help her? And he says, I can't help you with what's going on here in the hospital. I can only help you in court. So I felt bad for Maya. Poor Maya. Okay, so that is the show for today. I will see you on Monday. Although I'm going to be live tonight with Jen, DP Addiction Adventures, for our Craft or Treat 2023 event. That's hashtag craft or tweet. Craft, I can't even say it. 3 times fast. Hashtag, especially with after dental work. Hashtag Craft or Treat 2023. Tune in for that. That is at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. DP Addiction Adventures. I'll try to broadcast it on my channel as well. But if I don't, it's okay. You'll see me live on Sunday at 11 Central, where we will continue with the event. And we're going to have some fun doing some fun little giveaways. I'll see you then.